And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Ryan Metzler.
Hey everyone, it's Ryan Metzler here, and today we're going to take a look at a game called Glen, which is a worker placement / tile management and resource management game in which you're going to be moving your meeple to different tiles in order to claim them, and then building your own area in order to try and optimize the amount of actions you'll get to convert goods to whiskey or to victory points in different manners. So now that I've given you a brief overview of what the mechanics are and the flavor of the game, why don't we take a look at how it plays, and then I'll meet you back here with my final opinions of it. So here you can see the setup for a 4-player game of Glen. And this is going to be a game about moving your pawn strategically in order to get tiles to add to your own little type of village area or your own countryside area. So what you can see here are tiles on a central board, different meeples for the different player colors. We have coins to represent money. Each player is going to start with a certain amount of money. You have whiskey barrels represented by these small little barrel-shaped pieces. Clansmen, which are these wooden pieces, victory point tokens, and then different goods and more tiles as well as special locations. Now on a player's turn, it's going to be pretty simple. The player who is at the back of the line is going to move first. And this player is going to move on to one of these tiles that they want to take. Now, tiles can either have no cost. For example, this one here has no cost because it doesn't have any cost in the upper left-hand corner. But this tile here, the distillery at the end of the line, has the cost of 1 stone. So you'd have to pay a stone if you wanted to take this. But the last player would move to a tile, and they would say, for example, want to take the forest. Let's just say they wanted to take the forest. They would take this tile and they would place it in their own play area. Now, roads always have to join up with roads, and rivers always have to join up with rivers. So you can see here that the road would join this way. If this had a river on it, I'd have to join it that way. But since it's a road, it's going to join like this, and you always have to play orthogonally adjacent to one of your clansmen. And you're going to start with 1 clansman, and you'll get more throughout the game. Once you place a tile, you're going to be able to activate that tile and all tiles adjacent to it, and that's both orthogonally and diagonally adjacent to it. So you would activate this tile, and it's going to earn you 1 green cube because it has a green cube at the bottom of it. That's what it earns. Additionally, you'd activate the one next to it, and its activated ability is that you're going to be able to move one of your clansmen. So you get 1 movement point. And so if I wanted to, I could move this clansman to this tile or any other adjacent tile, but I'm going to leave him there. So after you've taken your tile, you've moved, taken your tile, and placed your tile, activated all of your tiles, and accomplished all of the abilities that they allow you to do, you're going to be able to sell or buy goods from the market. Now, you can only sell goods if goods have already been bought, and buying a good simply requires you to take your money and place it on the spot, the first available spot, and take the good, which you then immediately have to use to buy something. So you can only buy if you need to. So let's say somebody had bought a green cube. I could sell my green cube back to the market and take 1 money, but I probably wouldn't do this so early in the game. I would likely keep my cube to use for something later, something that I'd like to buy. At the end of your turn, you're going to replenish the tiles. You should always have 1 blank tile at the end, but you're going to replenish the end of the tiles, and you are going to put 1 from the first stack down there, and you can see that this one here costs a stone and a green cube, but it's going to give you a special area, which are going to be these cards up here, which give you special abilities, and it's going to give you another clansman, and when you place next to it, it's going to allow you to move. So you would put this here, and then the next player would go, and let's say they move here. And they would take this tile, they'd place it in their own play area, do whatever they needed to do, replenish, and then keep moving, so the next player would go, and the next player would go. But the important part is, you don't have to first take the first one. So for example, this last player could have moved all the way up here. And instead of taking this tile here, they would take this tile here. Now, this is important if you look at it very carefully, because you're not always going to get the same turn order. This player now could actually be skipped for several turns in a row, because blue could move here and take a tile, and red could move here and take a tile, and green could move there and take a tile, and then it would be blue's turn again. And all the while, these would be replenishing. And so you may get skipped for quite some time, not getting a turn. Now, after you've done all of this, players keep going around and around and around, accomplishing this, trying to get victory points, which they're going to get at the scoring rounds that are going to happen 3 times during the game. And victory points are going to be accomplished by obtaining several things. The first is going to be these clansmen. The more clansmen you have, the better you're going to do in terms of victory points. Second, you're going to want to collect these grain barrels. And there are going to be tiles like the distillery here that allow you to trade in grain for whiskey, and whiskey will be one of these things that you're going to count during scoring rounds. Finally, you're going to get points for these special areas, and I showed you one here. The Castle Stalker, that when you get this tile, you also get a special tile from the supply, which gives you a special ability. And those are going to be counted each round for victory points. And when one of these piles runs out, so when pile 1 runs out, you're going to stop and score. When pile 2 runs out, you're going to stop and score. And when pile 3 runs out, you're going to stop and score. And that'll be the end of the game. And what you're going to do is look at who has the most barrels, who has the most clansmen, and who has the most special locations. And that person is going to get points equal to the difference between the most and least. So whoever has the most of these will subtract the number of whoever has the least, and they'll get that many points. And you're going to score that in victory point chips. Then you would move on to the next round. Now, clansmen also have kind of a special thing that some special areas provide TAMs. They look like this. These count as additional clansmen. Also, at some point during the game, you can actually remove a clansman from your board. So, for example, I could take this guy off in order to score additional points for him. And that's how you actually get clansmen. They don't count the ones on your board. They only count the ones that you've removed. After 3 rounds, whoever has the most points is going to be the winner. However, there is a caveat at the end of the game. For each tile that you have more than the other players, you are going to lose 3 points. So they kind of stifle you a little bit for getting more turns. The players that are going to get more turns are going to lose more points, but hopefully have earned more points throughout the game. The die is a variant used for 2 or 3 players, which just kind of allows a dummy player to take turns, automatically removing tiles from the board that other players may want. You would simply roll this and move the dummy player that number of spaces, and he would take away that tile. And that's Glen More, a pretty simple little worker movement game. One that I enjoy quite a bit. I didn't really know that I would enjoy it that much, but I'd heard nothing but great things, and I decided to give it a try myself. Now, being a fan of heavier games most of the time, I wasn't expecting much, but I really have to say that even though this isn't a very deep game, there's some definite strategy involved in taking the right tiles, placing them in the right places, and getting the best combination of different activations of tiles in order to work in your favor. So if you're looking for a not too heavy game, but still with a decent amount of strategy, take a look at Glen More. Definitely a nice take on several different mechanics combined into one small, nice little package.
Thanks for joining us today. For more written, audio, and video reviews, as well as the #1 board game podcast, check out the website at www.thedicetower.com. Until then, this is Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.